welcome to the Daniel Lees podcast. How do you prefer to be called? Jimmy or James?
Jimmy. We're going to go
Jimmy,
for
yeah. Yeah, because I was looking online, I was like, Jimmy, and I was searching your name, and then all these comedians, like old school comedians, are coming up, and I was like, that's definitely not the Jimmy Hill that I know. Is that I think it doesn't matter what we achieve in life, it's always the simple things that really create the happiest moments.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with James Smith the other day, and he was saying, you know, one of the best times he's had of late was when him and his friends locked their phones away and they went out together and had dinner without phones. And he said it was the best thing. It was the best thing. And like you say, it really, and what you've done there also for me is you've unlocked some subconscious memories that I had from my time when, you know, I went traveling and, well, I didn't go traveling, but like I spent summers away and stuff. And we just used to we'd have a Kodak disposable camera, and you'd get all the photos and then you'd get them off down.
Ever,
yeah. And it, like you say, it's like, it was such a simple life with barely any technology. I mean, I remember Facebook, like my first Facebook account, I had to go to an internet cafe, spend €2 and get an hour on, and that's how I communicate with people. Whereas now it's like, yeah, everything's on the tip of your fingers, and it's almost like it's a blessing, but it's a curse. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the fond memories. But so you went traveling. Did you when it all ended? Like, how did it feel?
All I had to do was go back and play poker again.
Yeah.
That didn't seem that bad. Like a lot of people, like my mates at the time, they were like, "We're going to go back and like get jobs and do this kind of stuff." I was like, "I'm just going to go back, make some more money playing poker online," which I didn't mind doing compared to like working a normal job, and then I'll just go back at another point.
Yeah.
And I was like fairly free mentally at that point. Yeah.
And then you went home, and that's where you started your new job.
So I went home, planned to play poker. I only had $100 left, so I had to start playing really small games. Head wasn't in it. Had to get a job.
It's crazy when you look at your account and you're like, I got 100 quid.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
It's just like, oh.
Couldn't even afford to get insurance on my car. I had like a stay at Ibiza from 2004. Couldn't even afford to pay insurance. I was like, right, get your head down. But I think I just had such a good experience, and we talk about this often, my mates. I'm still best mates with the guys I went with now. And I honestly think that showed me what I need. Imagine going from like beach every day, Australia, to bedroom at your mum and dad's house, laptop, get on with it. 16 hours a day, and I'd experienced so much happiness that's all I wanted. I didn't want to be in, whereas at uni I didn't actually mind it because I didn't know how happy I would be doing other things, but it was, so I had to get a job to support it because I couldn't really put the hours into poker at that point because I was just mentally checked out. So it was like, get a job, do the poker on the side. So I did both for quite a while, which is exhausting, but I did get through it. Yeah.
How long did you do it for, the Phones for You gig?
Phones for You was about a year.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
But again, you kind of flipped that into a very entrepreneurial business as well.
Yeah.
And that was your first e-commerce business, yeah?
Yeah, so I spoke about this a few times, but I actually don't think I don't know if the people who I used to work with at Phones for You would ever watch this or even know me or follow me on social, but that was going on. I don't think, obviously no one knew at the time, because if they knew, I'd get fired. But for the listeners, so I used to be a salesperson at Phones for You on the shop floor, and I would buy used phones from the customers. So someone buy a new iPhone 5 or whatever, I always asked them at the end like what they're going to do with their old phone, and often they didn't really have a plan. They might go, I'm going to give it to my son, I'm going to do this.
What actually spurred that thought though? Because that's the fascinating part, because hundreds of people work in the same shop doing the same thing.
Something as stupid as this, right? So I'd got to the point mentally where I was going to set up a business online. Like a lot of people who listen to this who want to set up a business, it's going to be most likely be an online business nowadays because the barrier to entry is lower. And I was getting so frustrated with myself. Like, I want to set up an online business, but I don't know what to sell. This is before like you had like FBA drop shipping, all this kind of stuff. There was no one really doing it. It was like, I really want to do it, but I don't know what to sell. That was like my biggest frustration, probably for like 3 or 4 months. And I got so fed up with myself. I was like, right, well, I think it must have been something stupid, like my mum or my dad or even, I can't remember, it was mine. I think it was mine. I think I had an iPhone 4 and I was like, right, I'm just going to sell this on eBay and then get a new phone. So I was like, I'm just going to sell it. I was like, I need something to sell. I'm just going to sell my old phone that I've just changed. Maybe I just got a new phone or whatever, I can't remember. And I got it, got the package, got the label, took it to the post office, put the price up on eBay, sold it, and then I made like 50 quid or whatever I made. I can't remember what I sold it for. And then I was like, and then I was at the phone shop, and like I was like, oh, I wonder what other people are doing when they've finished their phone. Maybe I'll just buy it off them and sell it. It was as simple as that. It wasn't like within that, it was just like it might have even been like my first one I bought off was a mate's phone. So my mate came in, because I used to get my mates to come and buy phones from me, and I'd be like, oh, what are you doing with your old phone? It'd be like, oh, nothing. I'd be like, oh, I'll buy it off you for 100 quid, whatever. And it started from there. Then I started to do it to strangers. Before you knew what I was doing to every customer who came in the shop. And all of a sudden I was buying 5 or 6 phones a day and making like 300-400 quid a day on used phone sale on eBay.
Wow.
You know, on a 16 grand a year job. So it came from that, yeah.
And how long did you end up doing that for?
So I probably was doing that. It probably took me
again, because at that age, you're how old?
22.
And this is the tough part I found about like that part of my life, was because when you find a way to make money, you don't have, what I found was I didn't have the belief to think I could earn more. So you think, this is it for me, like this is it, I'm earning good money, I'm earning better money than other people, but you don't see the vision of bigger. So is that something that you did see? Did you see past that, or?
Yeah, but only because, so I had a mate, going back to my poker days again, like my mate, good mates now still, he lives in Dubai now as well, but he was making loads of money playing poker. I was nowhere near as good as he was. So I saw people doing that. I think I had this inner confidence at this point to be able to do that. So I wouldn't say that was a barrier.
Yeah.
But I saw, like I said, I saw an opportunity, started to do it. It grew over time. But one thing about that did really bother me is mentally I can remember, like, I didn't want people to know I had that job. I was a bit embarrassed about it, which is actually really sad, because at 22, what did you expect to be doing? But in my head, I had an image of myself, which was travel, play poker, and then you stick a blue shirt on me and I'm at the Phones For You shop and I have to be there at 10 and I have to leave at 6, and that's it. I think maybe if I didn't have the travel and all that kind of stuff, I maybe would have accepted.
That was the process of your life, yeah.
Whereas I've had this exposure to like an amazing life and happiness, to then go back to ground zero. You're in your bedroom where you grew up as a kid, and you're at Phones For You. That was really difficult, but I think that was probably the driver that made me find a way out. And
that's what's fascinating as well, because a lot of people will just give up then, wouldn't they? They'd be like, oh, you know, they'd get negged out by the whole, like, I want to be back there, and rather than go, right, I'm going to push on and create that again, you know, you see a lot of people just fall off and go, oh, you know, like, I'm done with this now. But when was it, at what point did Hairburst come around then? Because it was obviously, again, getting into a bit of a wormhole.
Yeah.
It wasn't always called Hairburst, was it?
No.
Hairvits.
How do you know that?
Wow. I just Googled it, mate. I but no, so I actually, on the website, you can actually go on to gov.org, and it's got all the information about your business.
Oh, okay.
So I went right back to the beginning, and I was like, Hairvits.
Yeah. So it was actually, the first name was, oh God, so much rubbish.
Because like the thing is, Hairvits is very close to knits. You know?
Or more importantly, it's very close to Hairvit, which is another business that I didn't know of that tried to sue us.
Oh really? So that's why you changed it.
And in hindsight, that was probably one of the best things that happened.
Yeah.
Because Hairburst is such a much cooler name.
Yeah. I mean, like, how funny is that?
But the business was running well at that point. I never actually spoke about this before, because I didn't forget, because I knew it happened, but it's just a bit of missed out. But yeah, we got.
Because it was only a few months, wasn't it? The Hairvits name.
Better than me, yeah. I can't remember. It must have been.
So let me tell you. Actually, it was 17th of February is when you incorporated your business. And I think the 15th of June is when you changed the name. It's only a few months.
So we were selling before that, corporation, as a sole trader. So then we must have started to find a bit of a way. Had enough money to register a company, which cost 100 quid, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But the first product, actually the second product, we tried to do an energy drink before that and it was rubbish. Hairburst, yeah. So we got a lawsuit came through.
Oh no. And what was the company called?
At this point it was called, probably Hairburst Limited. Yeah, everyone will be able to find it. It's on Company's House. Now, but bear in mind you don't have a lawyer. I'm now the lawyer, yeah. So I'm like getting this lawyer letter come through thinking, fucking hell, like, what am I going to do here? But it actually didn't make sense what they were saying.
Yeah.
And there's actually a bit in between Phones for You and Hairburst where I worked at a search marketing agency for 6 months as a salesperson. So I knew e-commerce is very closely linked to digital marketing, and I had a 6-month digital marketing job where I got to speak to loads of business owners and learn loads of cool stuff. So that did happen, and that was super important because this letter comes through saying you're using a name, it's similar to our trademark name, you owe us everything that you have made up to date and all this kind of stuff, and you need to, I mean the biggest bit that gave it away was like you need to remove your website from the Google rankings. But I knew from a digital marketing experience that we don't put you don't put your business in a certain position on Google unless you pay for it. But it was an organic ranking, so we were obviously doing quite well with traffic. So Google decides to put you there. So I can't, anything I do would remove that from that position. So I know they didn't really know what they were talking about. So I just sent a firm letter back myself explaining that it's not what told us, it's down to Google's algorithm where this business is positioned. You can't move this, you can't do that. And anyway, we kind of came to an agreement where we changed the name. And that's probably what their overall objective was anyway. So, yeah.
It'd be interesting to know where that business is at now.
Oh, it's actually doing quite well.
Yeah?
Yeah. As far as I'm aware. But we kind of, I mean, they weren't an online business, so we kind of rode a wave where they didn't. But yeah.
So, tell us about the idea, because, you know, I mean, I went on that with a bit of an entrepreneurial journey myself, and I was just literally racking my brains, just like that's what you do, right? You just rack your brains. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So talk us through that process, because that's something that I've never heard you really talk about too much, is the process of coming up with Hairburst, then went on to Hairburst.
So sporting background, this is like putting everything into a cake. So I had a sporting background, which was like, and I was always quite obsessed with my health. So I understood nutrition and vitamins and all this kind of stuff. So that was like number one. Then I wanted to do something in e-commerce. And the big bit, which is the most important part of it, is Instagram was just kicking off, really. And then I had the search marketing job. So you've got a sports background, interest in vitamins, the Instagram launch, search, and that job I was doing at the time. And my mate who founded the business with me, he had a Instagram page called Beards and Tats. So that was like just a page on Instagram and on Facebook where he just post, and Twitter actually, where he just post like, I never knew why he was doing it, I found it a bit weird, but he'd just post pictures of guys with beards and tats that were quite cool or whatever. And before he knew it, he had like 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers, 300,000 followers on this page of him just posting these pictures of these guys. And funny enough, Conor McGregor actually followed it one day because he obviously just saw this. This is like before he was a big name. And I can remember my mate saying to me, Conor McGregor's followed the page. I was like, decent. But he just used to, and then he started to get messages on that page saying, it'd be like a barber or like a, I don't know, a product for guys, and be like, oh, can I pay you to promote my products on your page? Or it'd be a guy who wants to be like a British model or something. I'd message him and going, oh,
can you post some photos for me?
Yeah. Can you post a photo of me on your page because I want more followers or whatever? I was like, you can, this is like a bit of a new thing. And I'm speaking to these business owners who are spending like 20, 30, 50 grand a month on SEO, which is traffic through Google. But then my mate who owns this page that's got 100,000 followers is getting paid 20 quid for these guys to get this. And then I used to know roughly what these guys from the search marketing agency were getting traffic-wise. And I started to show an interest in this Instagram stuff, thinking this is quite new, no one else is really doing it. People are paying 20 quid to direct traffic to different websites through Facebook and Instagram, and it was like that was dead early. And then it was right, okay, Let's look into that. So when we came with the product, it was like, we need to find something that fits Instagram, number one. Number two, what is the Instagram audience at the time? Well, it's mostly female. And we need to build something. I wanted to do sports nutrition and sell like protein stuff, but it felt like it was a better market to go into hair.
Yeah. But it's quite fascinating because what did you know about hair? Like, how did you come up with those products?
The very first product, as you said, was a vitamin. So I understood the vitamins. I fundamentally understood the vitamins, which was quite important. I wouldn't have been able to launch like a shampoo then because I didn't know anything about a shampoo. Like I learned that afterwards, but to start with, it was vitamins. So that was a quite easy one for us to go with. And that was the first product. And the formulation's still the same today, and loads of people have copied it, but it's a strong product still today.
You got into the hair vitamin kind of world, and then how did it all evolve into like becoming more of a brand? Obviously, there's a number of things to discuss in terms of obviously the co-founders and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the actual, when did you like then start to launch other products within your range?
So it was a one product business probably for the first 9 to 12 months, I would say.
Yeah. How was that process? Because the first 9 to 12 months, how were the sales? How did the sales do?
So compared to a lot of businesses, we started off after probably, I'd probably say within 5 or 6 months, we kind of figured out that we could make enough money from running this business to not have to work the jobs that we were working at the time.
What was the secret to that though? Because
social media.
That's a very difficult thing to do, that first initial part to grab people's attention. So in that first 9-month period where you're actually going, okay, we can finish our jobs now and focus on this. Like
social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were so early in that, like if you wanted to pay, I don't know, let's just take Kylie Jenner, right? If you want to pay her to sponsor a product, you're looking at like 500k plus, something like that now today. But back then it was like 20 grand. So if you think Kylie Jenner's 20 grand, what's someone in the UK who had been on a reality TV show going to cost? Probably like 200 quid, 300 quid. Whereas now it'd probably be like 10, 20 grand or whatever it is today. And not only that, there were pages that existed. So you would pay, like my mate had the beards one. There's going to be ones out there for women that follow for like hair or nails or makeup or any of these different subjects. So we'd pay, but then no one was really using it as a marketing tool, whereas we was. And then other brands were doing it, like for example, Gymshark, like went on Lewis's podcast and we had a conversation on that about how they would use different pages to push Gymshark. We were kind of doing the same thing, but in the hair category. Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, talking about timing being, by the sounds of it, like the most important thing right here, if you was to able to go, right, okay, Hairburst disappears and it starts today, do you still think you could create the same sort of entity that you've been able to create today?
So in the same fashion, it'd be much more difficult. However, everything changes and moves and everything's quite fluid. So like if you wanted to have a one SKU business today and launch it through pages on Instagram, it'd probably be quite difficult because the cost would be much higher. But you could raise money today compared to 10 years ago. It's probably much more difficult to do that for different ideas. So I've said this before to other people, but if I was to launch an e-commerce business, I'd really consider raising some money from people who know or within the industry to give it a kickstart. Because if you're going to be paying more for these pages or paying more for influencers or paying more for any type of traffic generating activity, rather than 100% of business, why don't you own 80 or 70 or 50%? And for the other 50%, raise capital from people who know are in industry. Yeah. And if it goes to exit and you make whatever you make, it's probably still going to be enough to achieve your goals. So getting the right people on board and on the bus is a good way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I always talk about it a lot. I'd rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing.
Yeah.
It's so important. People get fixated on this whole And you know, I think those are the ones that generally will tend to just fail in the end, because you got to see the bigger picture. But we've, like I say, we've gone from like start to finish quite quickly. So this 9-month period, like, so who can you remember your first influencer?
I can remember this clear as day.
Yeah.
So just to describe it, $4,000, $3,000 goes on product, brown envelopes, white labels, and black pens, and CN22 forms. So it's get the traffic. So we're doing some stuff on Google, we're doing paid click and all this kind of stuff, but mostly influencers, right? So influencers the site, people come to the website. We had to develop the website to a point where it would convert into a customer, but ultimately we're tinkering with things, trying to see how the traffic reacts to what we've created as a product and a message on the website. Order comes in, print the label through a printer, sign a CN22 form, which you have to do for export if it's a different country or whatever, pack it, take it to post office, as I used to do with the phones. So that was like a system that we had in place after we started to realise it was starting to work. But we had to make sure we got enough sales, which was based on the conversion rate of the traffic, to cover the cost of the influencers.
Yeah.
So that was the calculation.
And how much were you paying for influencers at that time?
So I'm going to definitely get this wrong, because I didn't actually, it's my business partner who did a lot of the work with a lot of influencers, but I can remember one day when we used, I think it was Lucy Watson.
Don't know who that is.
She was on, I think it was Made in Chelsea or something.
Yeah.
I made a really good sales day that day, and I can remember thinking, yeah, this is working really well that day.
Yeah.
But it was definitely less than £2,000, maybe even less than £1,000. I can't remember, but it was at that point we'd already got to a point where we had some credibility for people wanting to work with us. But we were on all these different pages where we're paying like 50 quid, 100 quid to get on these pages.
Were you ever worried that you would pay an influencer and it wouldn't work?
Yeah, and it did happen all the time. Happened all the time, but we were using so many, and we had so many different, like, we'd probably do between 30 and 50 like paid promotions every day.
Yeah.
At one point, so we'd probably we might use 10 influencers on one day. In that bunch of 50, we might use 10, and like 3 of them we might pay them and not get enough sales to cover the cost, but then maybe the other 7 do.
Yeah. So what you would do is you'd basically get an influencer, do that kind of launch with the influencer, see how the sales went, and then you would then put the money from those sales into more marketing tools and stuff.
Yeah.
And would you say influencer marketing was like the most important thing for you?
100%.
So you couldn't have done what you did today without it?
It was if you're looking at 2012, 2013, 14, around that time, it was more powerful then because less people were doing it. I mean, we still do so much of it today. It's still really important to us as a business, and we do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you've got some extremely beautiful women on your Instagram page.
Yeah, it's.
I enjoyed researching you a lot.
But it was super important, and it still is today. And loads of businesses. It's a huge industry now. Yeah. It's just that we were good on. You were the ones at the very beginning. Yeah. Your co-founders, Henry Gwilliam.
Gwilliam. Is he Welsh?
Gwyl. He's not Welsh, no. But everyone else struggles with the name. But we call him Gwyl.
Matthew Cragg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these guys are still your best mates to today?
Yeah.
I bet that's some story, isn't it?
Yeah, great. But they came on that travelling trip.
Sorry?
They came on the trip to Australia and Thailand, what I talked about earlier on. So...
and it must have been quite nice starting a business with your friends, because one thing that I seem to find a lot from people that found businesses is they always say if they've done it alone, if I could change anything, I wish I could have done it with someone. So I don't know what it's like to be a single founder. And I was on another podcast a few days ago actually with our mutual friend, Kevin, but he was almost asking me questions. He said, like, what would you recommend to people who are going to launch a business in terms of like founding a co-founder?
Well, I didn't have to do that because my two best mates ended up being great business partners, which is quite unique in some ways, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what it's like to be a single founder. I would recommend to find people you can have fun with, number one. Like, we used to have so much fun. We'd be packing together at like 4 a.m. Like, we've got jobs at this point, but we're in the garage together, like packing these orders. We used to live together at the same time. Put the music on, get the orders out, go to post. Like, everything was just 10 times funner when you're doing it with your best mates, right? So
yeah. Did you ever have any moments where you did clash though?
There's plenty of times, yeah. I'm trying to just give some good examples, but
Because it's like any relationship, right? When you've got too much of it, sometimes there is, and especially when you're doing that whole, okay, it's fun working together, but when you've got a full-time job and you still haven't just gone, right, okay, we're going to go full in on Hairburst. I suppose tired plays a role in everything, and like little things where you just kind of go, that was potentially like where you would argue.
Yeah. So the best way to describe it was, I'd probably say I was the most sensible out of the three.
Yeah.
So they'd probably say that as well, which I don't mind saying. So I kind of had to take on, there's a point in the business after this first 9 months where it's like, we're having some fun, we're making some money, everything's starting to work out, we're now working on it full time, we've got our first office, blah, blah, blah. That was but there was a time after that where it was like, right, this is like a super big opportunity. Like, we're not, like, it doesn't have to be as it is today. Like, we can make this into a global business, and we've got this confidence that I seem to have, which comes from poker, but maybe it was from something else. Like, I used to think like, well, there's people selling the same like type of product on the shelf in these supermarkets that don't know social media like we know, don't have the same work ethic that we have, is run by like public companies that don't have the same energy that entrepreneurial team have got. Like, we can go and take on these guys, and there's like, I for some reason had this confidence to do that, so I kind of like had to.
Is that also, could you think as well, is that because you also cared about the product as well? Because like you say, you talked about nutrition and how you knew it and understood it.
Yeah.
So you obviously believed in what you were coming up with was like better than the rest as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's so many businesses out there now that, you know, the first route to failure is if you're setting up a business just to make money, because consumers are now too wise to realise that.
I mean, we probably spent, again, in hindsight, it's probably too long, but like, for example, our shampoo and conditioner took me 2 years to get it out to market. Like, in the beauty industry, 2 years is like forever. Like, we could have probably got that product out in 4 months if we wanted to, but I was so desperate to make sure I had good products that I'd over-obsess on the quality. But then the shampoo and conditioner we launched first is still on the market today, like 6 years later, one of our best sellers. So product is super important, like you said. But yeah, with co-founders, I kind of had to be the sensible one within the team and sort of like grab it by the scruff of the neck and take it forward as a business.
They still involved today?
So Henry Grill is still involved. So he's still integral to the business now. So he does a lot of the marketing side and runs a lot of the brand as well. So super important. And then Matty, he got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2015, something like that.
What's that?
It's a type of cancer, and he spent 3 years dealing with that right in the middle of the business. So he actually exited a few years ago. Yeah. Where we arranged the deal together to figure it out.
Was that just because
that was super difficult?
Was that just because his health wanted to recover?
Yeah, so he got diagnosed, and we were living together at the time. So that was like quite hard to watch that happen. But he got diagnosed within 2 weeks. He was having treatment, and he came back like 3 times over 3 years. So for like 3 year period.
He came back 3 times.
So he'd have the treatment, it'd be clear, come back. Did different treatments along the way, but I'm pretty sure he's been cancer free now for like nearly 3 years. So he's never looked better, and he's doing really well. So he left quite a while ago because of that kind of stuff, but Gwil's still involved. Yeah. And we're all still great friends, which is the main thing.
Yeah. That must have been, again, that's another pivotal part of your journey, where it must have been so difficult putting a deal together, because I'm sure he probably didn't even want to leave that journey, did he?
Yeah, but I don't know what it's like to go through what he's been through with that. Like him and his whole family was obviously massively affected by it. I just saw it from on the outside view of seeing that, but I think from spending time with him and obviously know him really well, like I feel like his priorities shifted in some ways, and he probably he really changed his view on like what was really important, and he wanted to move back to where he's from, which is Newcastle, and spend more time with his family and do certain things that he always wanted to do. So I kind of, it shifted him in some ways, but I think he seems to be really happy now and he's doing great. So it's nice to see.
Yeah. And the first thing I thought as well is, because obviously you kind of hit the nail on the head. Your brands, you do have male and female, but it is more focused towards females. Now, how do three men get into the mindset of women? Like, how can you, like, and that's, I think, again, it's another, like, true testament to what you guys have done and built, because three men built one of the biggest brands for females. Like, you know, definitely to come out of the UK. I mean,
I can't take too much credit for that. So if you look at the brand from 2014 to now, it's completely different. And it's kind of evolved with time. Like if you look at other businesses, like when they start, they don't look as good as they look now. So if you look at it now, I think it looks amazing. That's testament to the team we've got in place now. I try and keep my hand off the branding side. Yeah, but I'd probably say it's down to that. It's down to just building a great team.
So was it a mixture at the beginning then, a mixture of men and women, and then just slowly started to evolve into just being predominantly quite a strong female brand?
Yeah, it's like my skill set was never branding. It was more about like running the business, really. So, and allocating time and capital and all that kind of stuff. So, like branding wise, I think we did a great job. I mean, we I guess it just comes down to like having a good eye for it, which I think mainly Matty actually at the time, who developed the website and stuff, did a really good job on. Bit of a random one, I think. Like I said, I expected to do sports nutrition, ended up doing this, which is a bit different. But it's evolved over time, and it's testament to the people involved. Yeah.
Because I mean, we'll come on to challenges now, because, you know, a part of setting up a business is, you know, I mean, I think you said it so many times on your podcast, or the podcast that you've been on, is so many people see the end journey and they don't realise what it's took to get there. Unless you're actually really an entrepreneur. I think it's very difficult for an employee really to figure out how hard it is and what you've got to learn, because there's so many different elements of it. Like, so when we talk about challenges, how did you find it with like supply chain and like deliveries? Like, it's all well and good at the beginning, where you obviously did the thing when you was at Phones for You and you did the shipments for the phones. But when you get into like a beast and you're doing big deals, and you know, you've got distribution deals with different distributors, and then you're obviously doing large quantities, like, how was that keeping up? How did you set in the processes to make sure that you weren't making mistakes on deliveries and stuff?
I mean, we still have problems now. I mean, when often people ask me about this like middle stage, because I've explained the starting bit okay, I guess. The ending bit's easy to explain because it's just happened, but this like middle bit's like an 8-year period, and it's very hard to explain on a podcast like what that was like. And what I've defaulted to saying is things like, it was just like constant issues all the time. But when I say that, like, I really mean it. And like you mentioned earlier about when we used to be called Hairburst and we had a law case, like that's just like erased from my memory almost until it was prompted, because that's like one of 1,000 things that have gone on. Probably over 8-year period. So how do you keep control of it? I mean, it like always comes down to people, and I think in terms of issues within the middle bit, like dealing with people has probably been the hardest part for me personally, because you can't just be like you're thrust into. You try to build a business to make it big, and then it gets big, and then you have to go, right, it's big now. Like, you're the majority shareholder and CEO of this brand. Everything rests on you, and you have to go and figure out. And like, that was my life for like 8 years, where it was just head down, trying to learn along the way and like get through it.
How did you get through it though? Because in that time, I think it's very difficult for people to really understand. But and I'm sure there's some really tough times in that process. Like, how did you get through it? Because I mean, was it the books? But like, what sort of methods did you have?
Yeah, the simple answers are the books. So it would literally be like doing that because I didn't have anyone to really ask or turn to. So it was like that was it. It was like that was like my default was like invest in myself, spend time learning and reading about. I mean, I always say it, but like Jim Collins' Good to Great, it's like an amazing book. It's about that middle bit. There's a few books about the middle bit, but everyone's got their own skill sets and stuff. Like for me, like figuring out the numbers and like systems and processes in terms of like how to make a business make money and be profitable and grow, that was like a piece of cake for me. Like for some reason, I just happened to be good at that. Same way I figured out poker, I figured that bit out quite well.
Yeah.
Now, what was difficult for me was like, so first of all, you can't do it all on your own. You have to have a big team. So we've got now like over 50 people now in the Hairburst team. That's excluding like all suppliers, warehousing, all that. That's just like the ops and marketing team basically. And you can't do it on your own. And I was fairly good at delegating quite quickly because I knew that, but actually getting a team to like do stuff is quite a difficult thing. And I've always struggled with that because I quite happily, because I was a guy who used to sit and do the poker or sit and do it all on his own. And then you go, right, well, you can't do it all on your own. You have to get this organisation to move. So hard to do.
Yeah.
So that was the overall challenge through that period that I found quite difficult, trying to like go big picture rather than little issues. Because if we go into little issues, it'll take forever. But
what about when stuff happened where you didn't know the answer? How did you deal with that?
So this is like this confidence thing that came from somewhere. Like I felt like I always had the answer, but I definitely didn't, right? Yeah. But in the moment, I felt like I had 3 solutions to every problem. But then the problem was like getting everything just to move, which is like, and this is testament to Grill as well, and Matty to some extent. Like they obviously saw that I had, like they entrusted me with the business in a way.
Yeah.
It was like, Jim's going to figure this out, just back him to crack on. So what Jim says is what we're going to go for. Now, they obviously knew me really well. I was like predominantly like the core driver within the where we're going to take it. So how it generally would work is I'd come up with the 3 ideas and then those guys would really help me in getting it to where we're going to go. So that we had quite a good dynamic, and even now still with Gwil, like he has to deal with me coming up with the different ideas, and then he has to actually grab them and take them and make it work. So that works quite well.
Yeah. How about people? You mentioned about getting the people to do, you know, what you needed them to do to function as a business. Like, did you kind of go plain sailing into recruitment, or was recruitment quite a difficult process for you?
Recruitment was quite difficult. Again, like I just seemed to think I could do it, but looking back, like our recruitment process now is much, much better. I mean, all a company is just people, really. Yeah. Like a company is literally a group of people who have got a assigned like plan and mission on where they're going to go. As simple as our business, which is like a hair care brand that wants to grow into be a bigger hair care brand, trying to just get everyone on the same page to grow. Recruitment's a very, very difficult thing to do. I think as businesses grow as well, like my job is literally recruitment. Like I can't actually do anything. I can set like plans out, but I can't physically go and do anything or change anything. I do a bit of sales now and again when it's like a big retailer or whatever, but I can't really drive anything. It's just all about people management. That's what it is. Yeah. So I've learned after 9 years of running a business how to get better at that, but I'm still learning every day. Yeah. And it was so difficult when you're like 24 and you've got 10 people working for you, or like 30, 40 plus whatever. Yeah. You kind of, do you know what I mean?
It's that is so difficult, isn't it? Did you find? I suppose it's a little bit different when you own the business, but when I first started in my recruitment process, I found it so difficult because they automatically just thought they knew more than you. Did you ever have the same thing as well, or?
Probably, yeah. I had a few issues with things like that, but I don't know, you kind of have to, like, I'm quite I wouldn't say shy is the right word, but I am quite reserved. I'm very selective with who I spend my time with, and I like to keep myself to myself in a lot of ways. So that doesn't really bode well when you're being challenged by 3 different people in your team on a certain concept who are all older than you, have been in the industry for 10 years, and I'm sat there going, now we're doing this for this reason. Like, it'd probably be a lot easier for somebody who is more of like a stereotypical like CEO type of person, which isn't actually me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a stereotypical type of CEO. I'm more of like a thinker, I would say, as opposed to like a CEO doer. But yeah, I have to find a way. Do
you know what I realised as well with your brand is what you've done really well at is you never really see any bad reviews.
Yeah.
You've always done quite good at like, and that's so rare to find from a brand as well. So, like, how's that process work? I mean, I'm sure you obviously get some idiots that will turn around and say stuff, but like, you know, from doing 53 or 54 podcasts now, you know, when you do some research, you tend to find some pretty bad stuff and whether it's true or not. But how did you manage to go, like, I mean, because like literally I couldn't find anything online that was kind of like derogatory about the brand. So you've obviously done it in such a good way and painted such a good picture of it.
I mean, it's not, I guess that just comes down to the product and the service. Like, I'm sure if you go on Amazon, there's issues with like fulfillment, shipping, but generally
that's out of your control.
Yeah. I mean, we could probably be better at customer service or fulfillment, or there's always issues, and we're never going to be perfect, especially when we open a new region. Like when we went into Italy, for example. Italy's complicated because you've got the north, which is like your Madrids and the type of like big cities, but you've also got like loads of little towns. And it's very expensive to get product to these places, and they do buy online. Or Slovakia, where cash on delivery is a thing. Like in the UK or Dubai, you buy something online, you pay on your card, it arrives the next day. In Slovakia, you buy it online, you have to take it to their house, and they'll pay in cash, right? And this is like, it feels like that's how e-commerce is run in that country. So there's lots of things that went wrong, but I think as a whole we managed to get it okay. So in terms of reviews, I think we just basically comes down to the product and developing good products. Yeah.
And as you were growing, I mean, at what point was it where you realised that like we're a big beast?
Probably. I mean, you don't, with an e-commerce store, you kind of have your information and you just continue to work on that information. When you go into a retail setting and you're in store groups like Boots or Holland Barrett, or, I mean, if you used to list it off, so Hairburst is now in like 20,000 stores around the world. So like in the UK, it's Holland Barrett, Boots, Superdrug. And then in like Europe, it's like Sephora, DM, which is like a big pharmacy in Germany. I think Beeper in Austria. I'm going to forget some now. Druni in Spain. And then America, like CVS's, China, A.S. Watson, Vietnam, A.S. Watson group. Like there's a huge group. I've mixed loads out as well. But you start to see yourself compared to other brands. So like, let's just keep it simple and go with Boots or Holland & Barrett, say. There's these brands that have been on the shelf for like 50 years. Like Vitibiotics is a business that's been out before we were born. Like Viviscal was a brand that I always looked up to, but that's been out for like over 50 years now. But we're finding out from buyers that we're selling better than these brands. So you kind of stay in your lane, sales looking good, we're growing, everything's great, but you've got these brands that have been there for so long that we looked up to, and I'm finding out that we're the best seller in category. So you go, okay, that one's public, that one's turnover huge numbers, but in this particular store, in this particular year, we've actually sold more than that brand, so we're obviously doing something well. And it starts thinking, what's to stop it from being bigger than that and bigger than that?
Was it hard to stay modest?
In what sense?
Like when you started hearing these and you started realizing that you were growing and it was becoming, like you say, like getting interest from, because later on you obviously get interest from investors and stuff. So
yeah. I think I've always kind of, going back to like the grounding I've had from doing that travelling trip where I'm staying in a tent and stuff like that, you're like, I know what I need to be happy and I want that a lot. So as I started to do really well in general, and like, don't get me wrong, I did buy like nice cars and fancy stuff or whatever, but it was never really that much of a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And I had a mission to continue to grow it, so I kind of just took a lot of it in my stride. I can remember the first time we went into, like, so the first store we went into in Holland and Barrett, that was like the first store we went into, and a lot of people say that was like a great moment when you first see something you've created in a real life setting. Like, so that for me, it was seeing the product in Holland and Barrett, but that particular day was like a bad day for the business in something else. I can't remember what it was, a particular issue. Went in, saw the product, wasn't that bothered. It was like a tiny step in the mission to get to the end. So it was never really that. I kind of just took it all in my stride, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose, you do talk a lot about how you're really smart with your investments anyway. So you were never really solely reliant on the business doing well to create your financial freedom.
After a while, yeah.
You created that for yourself.
Yeah.
When did you discover the like investments and that direction?
Again, so it was similar to the other parts of the story where I got to a point where I generated a lot of wealth, and it was like, right, I need to make sure that I keep hold of this. Like, money's a fluid object and it doesn't go up in value. So when I started to make some good money, it was like, right, quite quickly now, we need to ensure that we generate money elsewhere outside of the brand to continue to build wealth.
And what was your strategy to like building that wealth? Did you have a mixed portfolio, or did you just go straight into like stocks and shares? Yeah, that was the first thing. So I read a book called Money Masters of the Game by Tony Robbins. And it was huge. It was like this big, but I read the whole thing, and basically what it said was, in a sentence, is cash is worthless. Stocks and shares go up 7% a year, and you don't need a wealth advisor to manage your money because they take some fees. So just shove it into a simple index fund and let it grow. That's basically what it says in this massive book. Because I invested time into that book, I really got into the process, and I started to invest my money quite a young age, I guess. Yeah. How old were you when you started?
So money-wise, I was, again, trying to just go back into my memory. So when we ran this business, like, when I did start to buy like a few nice things, I was already like wealthy. So I was already a cash millionaire at probably 26 years old, I would say. On paper, I was probably a millionaire by the time I was 25. Wow. But the business had to, maybe even younger, might have been 24, if we was to sell the business on that day, at that moment. But it's all on paper. But actually cash generated, taking out the business, by the time I was like 25, 26, I had it. And I knew that if I could put £1 million into stocks and shares investment, I get 7% roughly, which is 70 grand. And that, my life don't cost 70 grand a year. Bit more now, but back then it definitely didn't. So that was free, because passively I could make that money without having to work. And I was fortunate that I managed to get to that position in such early life. But I think, and all I used to know back then was stocks and shares, but I mean, you can get much better returns in loads of other investment classes now. And I always had a view of every like 10 grand went towards that. Every 10 grand went towards that, and just trying to build that passive income stream. That was like my overall goal initially, with when we started to make some good money. Yeah. Yeah.
And then at what part of the journey did you start getting interest from like other investment groups and talking about being bought out?
Probably like 5 or 6 years in.
So it was quite a while into that journey. So you had to really, I mean, you say obviously on paper by like 24 you were technically millionaires, right? Yeah. So obviously the business must have been huge by the time they actually took a note of what you guys were doing and wanted to create that interest.
I think because we were classed as like a social media brand, because you used to use influencers and this kind of thing, it wasn't quite taken seriously until we're about 4 or 5 years in, and like going, okay, well, this brand is a social media brand, but it's the bestseller in Boots, it's the bestseller in Holland & Barrett, it's got listings in Sephora in Europe, it's doing all this kind of stuff, then okay, it's more of a real brand now, which is what a lot of e-com guys start with, is how do you go from like an e-com brand to a real brand? It's generally just to do with size and scale. So by the time we got that, you start to generate the interest from outside.
So would you say that the fact that you was in physical stores gave you a lot more credibility?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, there's positives and negatives. The negative is that they take margin. The positive is it's a different outlet to sell to a different audience, and it diversifies the business a bit as opposed to just having one revenue stream.
I suppose when you're then targeting people through online ads and Google ads and these, if they've subconsciously seen you, that I've seen you in that store, I've seen you here, I've seen you there. And you obviously, you had a few people knocking on your door. What was it that made you choose the company that you ended up going for?
So we, so by this point, got through the middle bit. We were getting messages from different private equity firms 2 years before we even considered doing a deal. So when we get to the point of actually doing it, we're like right at the end. So probably say we kind of entertained.
Were they aware of the sort of money you were doing though, in terms of like your revenue?
The private equity weren't, but they kind of. So we started to get approached and stuff. We didn't really take it seriously until we thought, okay. I mean, I kind of knew how businesses were valued anyway, just from doing my own research, and it was like, well, we don't need to sell the business because I've got all the revenue streams coming in from my investments and all this kind of stuff. So we don't want to put ourselves in a bad situation with a company we don't want to work with. So we're kind of trying to find that, and then loads of good companies we spoke to. I still speak to some of the owners of some of the companies that are wanting to buy it now, but JD was just a bit different compared to the other ones, and I fancied doing something a bit different.
Yeah.
Like we could have joined lots of big beauty companies.
Were there like companies that wanted to just buy you out 100% and be like, we want it all, and you just?
It was mostly, to be honest, most of them involved me being involved in some capacity. Because the thing with most companies is you got the brand and the asset, but it's also the people. And like JD really liked me and the team, and they wanted us to continue to be involved and help out with finding other businesses that are similar and put them all together within JD, and that was all quite exciting to me. So I actually didn't focus on the money in the end. It was more about finding the right place where I'm going to be happy working, basically. Whereas the others, I didn't really want to put myself in a situation with a private equity firm with this particular business, because I've kind of know how that operates. I didn't really want to become like a small fish within a big pond of like beauty brands either. So JD was like completely left field. It was the first beauty business that they did a deal with. I can continue to build it and find other businesses that are similar to like incubate them and help them grow as well. So it's like overall was just a good mix. Yeah.
And then you've obviously gone through that whole process, and this is a long process, but you've gone through the whole process. What was it like when you finally saw it's all gone through, and what was the percentage that you actually sold?
I'm not allowed to say, but I can say it was majority of the shares.
Okay.
So majority of the shares were sold.
So that business that was yours, 100% from,
we now own a minority. So
yeah. Like, how was that feeling?
So it was. What would you expect me to say?
I expected you would feel a bit empty.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was me, I would feel a bit empty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like you'd be like, okay, so the reason why I can actually resonate with this is because I get it every year when the financial year starts, because I'm back at zero. And that makes me feel quite empty, because I'm just like, all that hard work that I had last year has just gone, boom, doesn't matter now. It's back to zero. And I've got a good pipeline of projects and stuff that I focus on. So it's not so bad in the end, but I have a really weird feeling, like almost a bit like a breakup. Like you're saying goodbye to something, but then it's also, I think purpose as well. You know, I think purpose has a lot to probably do with it. And it's just once you've built that, you know, that business and you've seen it, and then you're like, and also as well, maybe the decision making, like maybe there's decisions you can't make within that business now, and you're like, oh, it's my fucking business. Like I started this. Like,
it's a big mixed bag, to be honest. So our process, particularly when it was such a long process, we probably spent 18 months like in conversations trying to figure out which direction to go. So on one part it was like, we've decided what we're going to do, we've done it, we've got through all the legal stuff, which wasn't enjoyable, you've done it. So there's like 10% of relief in there, like, okay, you've started this process, you've finished it, well done, like, relax. Now, I didn't necessarily need, even though it put me in a different position financially, it wasn't like that really changed anything at all. But what I can do is, and from an enjoyment perspective, like I'm trying to like really focus on actually making sure that I do remind myself that I've actually done it. Because when a lot of people set up a business, like when we first started, we didn't actually set it up to then sell it. That was never the plan. It was, we just focused on building a business, and then the opportunity came around and we decided it was maybe a good direction to go in. Yeah. But we did do it, and it's what a lot of people want to do. So it's like taking the time to go, yeah, we did it, try and enjoy it. So the enjoyment now is more so because I'm spending more time thinking about it. Then on the day, it was just like a nothingness. Yeah. It was a nothingness because you don't, you know, it's not like it's just appeared out of nowhere and you've like won the lottery. It's like you've gone through this for like 9 years. So the day you actually get the money for selling your shares, it's like, yeah, it was happening. It's happened over such a long period of time that you kind of become a bit numb to it, I think. Which is a shame, really, because you would like to think it's a big. I mean, I did celebrate a few months afterwards, but
yeah, and it's quite. I mean, now that you're financially free to make the choices you want to make, would you say that you're back at that Jimmy that was in Australia, where he can choose to do what he wants and go and have fun and be able to, you know, I mean, I always relate to money as freedom tokens, right? No one cares about money. Like, I don't physically care if I've got money in my pocket or not. I just care about the things I get to do with that, and it creates the freedom. Like, would you say you're back at that happy place now, where you can just do whatever you want when you want?
A few battle scars along the way. Yeah. I think there's a freedom for when you're in your young 20s, which is a bit different to your young 30s. Yeah.
But like, for example, when you was in Maldives and I was chatting to you on your Instagram stories, and you're playing golf and you're waking up and you're like, do you know what? I'm just playing golf. I'm not having to worry about anything. Like,
well, I'm not. I'm kind of. So physically, this is something I've been working out as well. Like, so freedom is ultimately the goal, and like money tokens is part of that freedom, right? But it's only one part. So you can be financially free, and you can be physically free. So I would say I'm financially free and physically free. So I don't necessarily have to work again. And I can, in theory, do what. But I still work. I'm still involved in Hairburst. I'm still the CEO of the brand. I'm still doing it because I love to do that. And that's different to me when I was younger. So like, I'm kind of free, but I'm also kind of not. Because in my head every day is processing with problems and issues with the business still. So I'm not fully free like I used to be back then. Yeah. You know? So it's a bit different. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit different.
So what's next then? What's the next goal? Have you set any agendas for, like, I mean, I know you're currently looking, and they've kind of given you the freedom to look for new brands and stuff, but like, have you got any like visions for yourself?
So I'm enjoying doing that for now. I'm enjoying still doing my Hairburst work.
Have you found any good brands yet?
Spoke to loads of different brands, yeah.
Have you found any ones that are like, yeah, that's really good?
I've got one or two that I really want to work with, but it's a competitive market out there, you know.
Yeah. And are you only talking to brands that are actually like fully functional, generating revenue, or are you looking at early concept stages as well?
So personally, I do angel investments. Yeah. So as long as it's not within my non-compete with Hairburst, I can do angel investments. I do a lot of that. The biggest stuff, which is in a similar industry, which is what I can really work on, is looking at those with the Hairburst JD group thing.
And actually acquiring them, yeah.
So like medium to big size businesses I can do through that. Really early sort of like startup-y stuff that's not involved in anything that's like Hairburst, and I can invest in that kind of stuff. Obviously investing my money, trying to be smart with how I do that around. But I think in terms of what's next overall, time will tell. I mean, it's been 5 or 6 months, and I think every day I'm kind of learning more about myself in terms of like what I want to spend my time doing. Quite enjoying the golf at the moment.
Yeah.
But I do a bit of charity stuff as well. So I'm kind of, what I do know is I do really like new stuff. So the big stuff's cool. I'm enjoying doing that, but I also like looking at the new stuff. So a mixture of everything at the moment, and just trying to enjoy it and not be too stressed about it. Because you get caught up in stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
Like issues happen all the time, on the highs and the lows. Like we had a big contract coming through a new retailer in Spain last month, and I came checking my phone, and I was like absolutely buzzing about it. But it was like, well, I own so much less of that business now than I used to, so I should be less bothered. But I was still just as happy as when I was when it was all mine. So yeah, it's interesting just learning how I'm reacting to it all, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, that was a really fascinating chat.
Yeah.
I listened to so many podcasts that you did, and you represent yourself so well. But I felt like there were so many questions that were unanswered, and I hope that everyone listening into the podcast has kind of got that more of a detailed story of your journey. And yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was great.
Obviously, you're going to say it's good because, you know, you're a polite guy. No, but on a serious note, I'm super glad that, like, you know, I've been able to meet you. I mean, I've got to give it to him. I'll give him a shout out. Anthony Scott Logan, you are a boy, because, you know, he's introduced me to some great guys, and, you know, I've been able to have the pleasure of meeting you, and I hope that we can obviously keep in contact, and, you know, you can share more success stories with us later on. But yeah, I just want to thank you very much for joining the podcast, and obviously taking your time out and coming to have a chat with us. So I'm sure, like, you would have loved that. So to get recognised, the podcast, we would love it if you could just go over to any page that you're listening to, give us a 5-star rating, share it with your friends. If you're one of those people that actually use this Hairburst brand, and you want everyone to be like, oh my God, this brand, this is the actual story behind it, here it is for you. So go and share it with your friends, give us a 5-star rating, because without you, I say it every week, we just couldn't do it. And selfishly, I learn a lot from these podcasts, and I just get to speak to some great minds like Jimmy today. And, you know, honestly, I sit here and just, I'm so in awe of the conversation and what these guys have achieved week in, week out. So I hope you feel the same, and thank you for your continued support on the podcast. So over and out, let's go and enjoy the rest of our evenings.
Cheers, man.
Thailand tomorrow. Woo!